Hello and welcome to the Learn How to See Better podcast, the only podcast out there known to actually improve your vision the longer you listen. This is your host, Drew Davis, and I'm glad you've joined me here today. I can't wait to share some great information with you about how to improve your health, wealth, and relationships. So let's get right down to it, shall we? Hey everyone, it's Drew and welcome back to the Learn How to See Better podcast. And in today's episode, I want to take you through my experience of how I actually started to learn how to see better myself. And it's kind of funny, the timing. I got a friend coming to town to visit that I haven't seen in some time. And one of the more recent times I'd seen him in previous history, he'd actually just turned 40. And he's a little bit older than I am. And we were laughing about how his wife called him on the carpet and asked him and said, you know, now that you're 40, right, break out the black balloons and you're officially over the hill. She asked him, you know, are you where you thought you would be in life? And I thought that was a pretty interesting question for one, because I'm sure that's not the typical question you get. It's like, oh, do you feel old? You know, I could see maybe it being phrased in, you know, do you have the rank and the, job success that you're expecting to have? But, you know, I looked at it as a much deeper question. Are you where you thought you would be in life? Because there's a lot of places you can be in life, and you might have everything in one area and really be struggling in another. So where you thought you would be, there's a little bit of depth to that. And he shared his piece and talked about what he felt. And I realized, gosh, I'm not quite 40, but in the next whatever frame it was back then, year and a half, let's just say, I will be. And I wonder, even at this point, if I would say I am where I thought I would be. And again, it was a unique way of looking at that question, because I think back to when I once looked at, success and quote unquote doing well in life through kind of a one-track mind. It was all maybe about, what your title was, how big a company you worked for, what your W-2s were. And this was just, I don't think that I ever, naturally thought this way. It's just kind of like what was, thrust upon you as the ideals that you get about where someone should be at a certain age and, society and this land of opportunity, right? And so for me, when I think about all that, I just recognize that one of the most pivotal shifts for me came about, a decade ago when I first started to get introduced to business concepts and home-based businesses and making money from investing. And, I was just a worker bee, just kind of swinging that hammer and, a little bit more, I'd say, quote unquote, married to an old school idea, that you work for 40 or 50 years and then, you retire and you're on, some sort of sponsored pension plan, and you live happily ever after, right? Well, the world's changed and we're in a new day and age. And I just think about how, I had a viewpoint and outlook on, what my world was going to be like. Based on the path I'd kind of taken, the go to school, get good grades, get the good job, working for the big company, be successful in all things defined as that, right? That you go through that process and that's what it all ends up looking like. And so when I thought about, am I where I'm supposed to be or where I thought I would be in life, from measuring it in the classic corporate sense, it's like, well, maybe not, maybe I'm not, at some C-level executive status, but recognize that I was also doing, quite well. But in a different regard, I'm totally different, where I think I'm not just, I'm somewhere I never thought I would be, but way ahead just in the arena of having insight on how you can, build businesses and build up something part-time around your schedule while you're still punching the clock and providing a platform for you to be able to build upon if you should ever elect to change the course of the direction that you want to have in life. And so from that standpoint, I thought, wow, you know, while I might not be the president or CEO, of a major corporation in corporate America by, 38, I also had other business endeavors taking place, outside of work with regards to profitable investments and being able to, learn about the inner workings of business and finance and personal development. And it just wasn't always like that because with the original plan to just kind of, punch the clock and do the work and go through life, yeah, that would have you end up being like, okay, your bills are going to get paid and you're never going to necessarily have to, want for a whole lot in a base materialistic way of looking at the world. But until there was this extra element, this extra ingredient, this extra component that most would refer to as personal development. Some call it self help. I also call it personal development. It's something that actually changes you and changes the outcome and I think in the course and the direction of your life. And so the idea that what some people call the foo-foo stuff out there, the rah-rah, make things better and you can do great and positive mental attitude, not everyone tunes into that channel. But when I had the wake-up call for me was when, I first started to look at home-based business building opportunities and things I could do part-time around my busy schedule. And, seeing someone that was having success with the business say, hey, why don't you, consider listening to, someone that's well-versed in business, talk about ways that you can have success, which is probably something you're not getting from whoever you're listening to while you're driving around now. And so the idea was presented, that your car is kind of like a mobile university. And I'm like, yeah, well, maybe we'll see, right? So I take this CD and, eventually I pop it in, and it was as if out of nowhere, I just started getting hit with, knowledge bombs from concepts and theories that I'd, never been introduced to before. And as crazy as it sounds, these were very basic things. For things to change, we have to change, and, don't wish it was easier, wish you were better. Just certain philosophies on life that if you were to at least consider the point of view or the perspective of the individual sharing that and where that must be coming from, because if that's different from your attitude, it's like, okay, well, that's just a difference in attitudes and we can agree to disagree. But if you also start to make parallels and connections with certain philosophies that you hear and say, well, maybe that does make sense because as I look out in the world, I see maybe those that, have, more positive life balance. They also tend to think a certain way or say certain things or do certain things. And you realize you can put basic facts together. And what I saw for me was that as I just began to be open minded to the idea of personal development and positive messaging coming in my world, if nothing else, to offset some of the other input that I would be getting from a variety of sources for a variety of reasons, that you can just start to get exposed to concepts and ideas that, if embraced or given a chance to experiment with in your own world, that isn't going to, wreck your whole setup. You can try them out for yourself. You can try new things as far as ideas and perspectives and ways of thinking. And there's a magnitude of impact that begins to compound when you really look at this attitude, this philosophy, this outlook over an extended period of time. And that's what I think has been the biggest piece for me, because every step of the way, even though you get a new idea or way of thinking, it's like, oh, someone says, why would you ever want to consider, leaving a good paying job to start a business? That's silly. Or, why would you buy two houses or three houses? You already have one, right? What are you doing? Are you crazy? And seeing that the contention in ideas and philosophies, can draw can draw tension between people if you let it, but you don't have to tune into that channel, and you just kind of let everyone have their own perspective on things. But knowing that there is just an ability that we have to start to change the direction of our lives if it starts to go off into a direction that we don't want it, or if we just say, hey, there's enhancements that I want to make based on the experience I'm having. And even that is being a huge aha, when you would start to hear things like, oh, you are exactly where you're supposed to be in life. It's like, yeah, because I walked here from across the street. That's why I'm here and exactly where I'm supposed to be. I had a meeting, but it's way deeper than that. And even just that idea, if you're open to saying, okay, I'll have the honest level of introspection or reflection or whatever you want to call it to look within, and ask myself the honest questions of what is it that has brought me to this point in my life. And maybe that's with regards to your health. Maybe that's with regards to the quality of the relationships in your life, with family, with friends, with a spouse or significant other, with your children. And so if you have the ability within you to look at things from a different perspective when presented with new ideas, and not have a closed mind that we tend to say as adults, especially, of I already know that, or I tried that once, but, and just completely shutting down new ideas. Learning how to see better is essentially a willingness to open one's eyes, to listen with an open mind to a new idea, to see if it doesn't resonate, or at least have you ask the question, or ask questions about things you already know, or challenge information or things you've already been taught because of a new way of looking, and being able to debate and see what does actually make more sense when you line these things up, and then make your own decisions. But learning how to see better is that process of going through adopting a mindset of growth and development and willingness to change. And even that is in and of itself an epiphany for most people. T. Harv Eker and his Secrets of the Millionaire Mind is author of he's the author of that great book that many people know about. And one of the things he teaches is that awareness is the first step towards change. If you don't even have awareness to a situation that's plaguing you, there's not going to be the change that takes place that's necessary. So that's kind of the beginning of it. And I think that those that are introduced to personal development and the idea of being able to think different and get exposed to new ideas and change your thoughts, your feelings, your behaviors, actions, habits, lifestyle, being willing to go down that path and explore, is one of the most significant decisions that someone can choose to make and keep. And for me personally, when I look back over the last decade, the fact that I was introduced to a different way of thinking, the idea of it turning my vehicle into a mobile university, because once I started to get some of these ideas in my head, and they'd rattle around, and I'd try some things out, and a crazy thing would happen. I would actually start to get some benefits, whether it's smoother, relationships with, or whether it's, better, getting along better with peers at work, or family members, what have you. It just seemed like things were getting better because I was learning and becoming better. And that positive growth from the individual standpoint would just start to spill into other areas. It's like, okay, there's not friction in the relationship. I'm finding that my health is getting better as I learn how to see better. You get better clarity about certain things you want to accomplish in life because you're learning how to see better and beginning to better evaluate the things that are going on in your world, and to say, are these things serving me and helping me to get to the goals that I want to accomplish, helping get to the places I want to go. And so as I've learned how to see better, it becomes more and more apparent that the world is so abundant, not just with information, but with wisdom and insights about ways that we can that we can take that we can take concepts and apply them to our world and to our life, and essentially begin to construct, deconstruct, what have you, and chisel away at old ways of thinking that have potentially, hamstrung us, hindered us, chained us, shackled us, and delayed us from getting to the places we want to go, or potentially even living the best life that we possibly can. And so that's, I think, one of the most important decisions someone can make over the course of a lifetime. It's not, what school you went to or what major you picked or who you worked for. It's, what type of outlook do you have on your life, and what is your attitude towards improving yourself on some sort of consistent basis to become a better or even best version of you, so that you can benefit from this experience of life and the flash in a pan moment, of the 100 years, if we're lucky, that we get to be here. And so that's where and why all this has come together. Is I've got to a point that over the last decade, you start to you continually invest in yourself, and you continually get exposed to great things, and you continue to consume, and you continue to grow, and it gets to a point where it's not that I'm done growing, but there's something in me driven to that there's driven to me to just share it, and there's a must that says this information cannot be kept to yourself. You have to begin to share with an audience that may very well even be invisible in the beginning, but to be able to share these things that have had a direct impact on my world and the world of close ones, loved ones, that I can see the magnitude of change just by a few simple adjustments and disciplines, practice every day, and reduction of a few different errors in judgment, practice and repeated every day. And that's the secret sauce to probably anything that anyone wants to attain, is understanding the compound effect and being able to apply a philosophy and an attitude towards personal growth and development over the course of their life, whenever they're exposed to it, and holding on to that and allowing the magic to work in their lives. So this is probably just some snippet of a greater, movement of others that are out there putting their good into the world with their own flavor, their own experience, their own knowledge. And this is mine to add to that greater good, that collective, because there will be someone that stumbles across this and finds information within that says, wow, that gave me that wake-up call I needed to make certain positive changes and begin to grow. And I think that's within us all, to live, love, learn, leave a legacy, grow and give back, all those great things. So what a positive note to close this one off on. And hopefully you've enjoyed the historic kind of breakdown of how I actually began to learn how to see better, and how I've been able to essentially accumulate the knowledge and know-how and the nuggets of wisdom, and apply them one by one to my world, and be able to see some of those results. And they come in all areas. And that's, why you probably found this in the health category. This is living better, health all around, all the spokes of the wheel. So again, we'll be sharing some more about this as we continue on, obviously with the personal development theme. And I want to break down in a future episode how you can actually learn how to see better step by step. So be sure to tune in, subscribe, share with a friend if this is the information that resonates with you. And I can't wait to see you on a future episode. So thanks, and tune in again next time. See ya. Well, all right. That was some great content, wasn't it? Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm glad you liked it. This is your host, Drew Davis, and I want to thank you for listening to the Learn How to See Better podcast today. And don't forget to subscribe and tune in for future episodes, and be sure to share with a friend if you are enjoying this content. Thanks, and see you next time.
The podcast you just heard was made using Anchor. Ever thought about making your own podcast? Anchor makes it really easy for anyone to get started. It's a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free. Sign up now at anchor.fm/new. That's anchor.fm/new to get started.